welcome to the Series 11 panel discussion for Episode 4, Arachnids in the UK by Chris Chibnall. And today I have with me Jack Phillipson.
Hello.
And Eric Savage.
Hello.
Eric has a YouTube channel, which you can check in the description. It is the Scarosian Filmmaker. It's a very good channel. I highly recommend you check it out. So today we're going to be discussing the fourth episode, as I just said. And to start off, we're going to talk about Jodie Whittaker in this episode, as usual. Because it's always exciting when, you get to see a Doctor kind of change, develop. It's always interesting. So, Jack, what did you think of Jodie Whittaker in this episode?
I think she's settled into the role quite well. I think we've got a good idea of what kind of Doctor she's going to be. A performance of the material, I think, is slightly better than it was in the last few episodes. I think she's good. I just really don't like the 13th Doctor as a character. I just find her quite annoying.
I mean, I can kind of see where you're coming from there, but why exactly is that?
It's just because they're going for the really hyperactive nice person thing.
Like a Matt Smith again.
Matt
we definitely had that in the first episode, and I didn't enjoy it there. But I felt like she's toned it down a lot in the last three episodes, and I didn't find it as bad. So, what did you think of that? I mean,
and just there's lots of stuff which is nicked off Tennant's Doctor, like constantly name dropping and.
Oh, well, every Doctor's really done that. I mean, I'm still not a fan
of
kind of the name dropping thing, but it's not just a Tennant thing. It's something the Doctor's done.
I remember Tom Baker's Doctor doing that a bit.
Oh, a lot.
My good friend Isaac Newton, haha.
Yeah, exactly. John Pertwee did as well. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I think John Pertwee was really the major stuff. Well, actually, no. Patrick Troughton did it as well. He talked about Lister and the moon base and things like that.
No, I mean, people seem to be into it, and I'm not going to begrudge them. It's not. I mean, it was a little bit maybe badly played in the first couple of episodes, but at this point, it's not. She's not playing it badly, so I'm not going to complain too much. Apart from the way she always does, like the big arm wave when she uses the sonic screwdriver. It always has to be
that's really over the top.
Overarm.
Well, that's just all of New Who. I mean, the sonic screwdriver is really something that needs to die. It's just a lazy plot device that sells toys. It's shit. It doesn't actually improve the quality of any Doctor Who episodes. It diminishes it.
I think if they could just tone back the sonic screwdriver to be just like something that opens doors, or maybe just like acts as a screwdriver, I think that.
Compare, for instance, how the classic Doctors use a sonic screwdriver. They kind of casually stretch out their arm and place it against something, like a tool. Whereas in New Who, they do the same position that Harry Potter does when he's using his wand.
Expelliarmus!
The sonic screwdriver only does turn up once in Arachnids, I think, but it's when she's opening the door and she's does the whole flamboyant fling her arm out in front of her.
Yeah,
it's opening this door that momentous an occasion?
Honestly, that's just classic Who versus New Who in a nutshell. It's just a matter of don't worry, I can open this door. Compared to
I can open this door because I'm a Time Lord from Gallifrey and I'm the best person ever.
Space Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. Although to give Series 11 its credit, it's really toned down the whole kind of Space Jesus stuff. The Doctor seems a lot more down to earth now, even if some of the kind of over the top what do we call it, whimsy is still there. It's not quite as bad as it was, and also I don't feel they're doing the kind of Space Jesus thing as much as they have done for the previous couple of seasons, where there's just this weird hero worship of the Doctor. I think there's been a little less of that, and there's been a more down-to-earth Doctor, really.
Yeah.
Now, just real quick, so the people know, at this point, I personally have only seen the first and this episode of Series 11, so Woman Filled with Arachnids.
You missed that. You missed the good ones then.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll go back and...
Rosa was definitely Jodie Whittaker's best episode for me. Is kind of the whimsy was very toned down, the seriousness was turned up. Jodie Whittaker acted the material very well. It was very well written material, which I think Mallory Blackman was definitely the reason why Rosa was so good, because she seems like a very, very, very strong character writer. And also the fact that the jokes are actually funny in that story helped. I mean, not that there isn't funny jokes in the other Jodie Whittaker stories, it's just they weren't really... Some of the jokes I didn't find funny in some of the Chris Chibnall Jodie Whittaker stories, whereas the one in Rosa by Mallory Blackman, that had some very funny jokes. And maybe I feel that Chris Chibnall perhaps isn't the strongest at doing humour, at least in my opinion.
It is character dialogue in general's got a kind of weird, like almost radio play quality to it, where everyone is talking like the audience can't see the action, so they're describing what they're doing a lot of the time.
I can kind of get what you're saying there. Although I will say he's very good at developing characters, or at the very least a lot better than what we've seen in the past in New Who. There's a definite improvement from how characters were handled, for the past, since New Who started to now. Because
the characters are not plot points with witty personalities attached, they're human beings.
Yeah, they're very down the road, but we'll get on to the companions in a moment. But yeah, no, I think Jodie's going well, but it was just, considering how much I enjoyed the last episode, which you'll see if you go back to that panel discussion, it was a small but step down for this one, I felt. And I think it's because Mallory Blackman is a stronger writer than Chibnall. At least that's the impression I've got from seeing that one episode by her, co-written with Chibnall, and then Chibnall's solo stories. She seems to be very good at writing the 13th Doctor and making it very enjoyable, likeable, and funny. Better than Chibnall.
Yeah.
Not that I felt Chibnall bad, but, it's just...
he's got his strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, I feel Chibnall...
Like every writer.
Yeah, I think Chibnall's very good at running a show. He knows how to, kind of get characters right and things like that. But as an individual story writer, I'm not quite convinced yet. I mean, nothing he's wrote has been bad, necessarily. It's just mixed, let's say.
I mean, we'll get on to the plot in a minute.
So just real quick, from my point of view, which again is only 2 episodes, I apologize to everybody, because this might be painful, but the way Jodie's Doctor is written in this episode, it just feels a lot like Matt Smith with the Yorkshire accent, especially with some of the kooky eccentric lines. Oh, you can't be president before Yaz's mum.
I can kind of see what you're saying there, yeah.
There's a little bit of a unique personality to her character, but still, there's a lot of that heavy influence.
And Imagine Me with a Sofa I'm sure that is just lifted from a slightly different line which RTD had for the 9th Doctor. Yeah. I can't remember.
What I will say is that when she's serious, she's much more different than Matt Smith and much better than Matt Smith. It's like when Matt Smith being serious, talking about how he had a bloody jammy dodger or silly lines like that, whereas Jodie actually gets properly serious when she gets serious.
I mean, it didn't help that a lot of Matt Smith's serious scenes were ludicrously overblown speeches.
Exactly. She doesn't have ludicrously overblown speeches. She's just genuinely confronting a problem that's there in a reasonable manner, which makes it much better. And Jodie's very good at acting that, I feel. Which kind of, for me, distinguishes her from the last few New Who Doctors, which I haven't been a fan of. Yeah, so is there anything more to say on Jodie Whittaker's Doctor before we move on?
There are more things I want to say about the way she was written in this episode, but it's very specific to this episode and the way it was resolved. So when we talk about the plot, we'll put it in the end of that.
Yeah, sure.
And talk about the resolution.
Eric?
Nothing to do with this episode, don't think.
Sure, fair enough. Well, let's move on to the companions, which have been an interesting point of discussion, and I don't really think there's going to be too much to say that's different from the previous episodes, but I'm interested to get some new opinions, considering you haven't been on the previous few episodes. So what did you think of them in this story?
Ryan was good and fun. He's a fun character to have around, in the bit where he was doing the shadow puppets in the background of the scene in the lab. I think it was a nice touch.
Oh, that's what he was doing. Okay.
I didn't
Just worried
even.
for a second.
I've watched this episode twice, and I didn't notice that. So that must have been pretty subtle.
I
I thought it was like handling a spider or something. I'm like, what are you doing?
And then, obviously, Graham's still got all the best lines and the best scenes. And
The best charisma, and just being
Yeah.
so lovable in general.
I am loving Graham's
And then
character.
this, I assume, was supposed to be the episode where Yaz came into her own, and she just didn't. And I'm still not sure why.
She still hasn't got any real development. I still don't feel like we know Yaz and what she wants.
I mean,
And the one thing that did annoy me is at the end of the episode, she left in the TARDIS because, like, it was something like, she couldn't be asked to be with her family or something. But I don't get what her family was doing wrong. They seemed, other than her sister, they seemed pretty friendly to me.
I don't know, maybe they were just overly friendly and embarrassing parents. But I think, but like, there was, the scene where they got the gun pulled on them. I was like expecting that to be the bit where he asks, "Well, who are you?" I was expecting to go, "Well, I'm a police officer, and that's clearly an illegal firearm. What are you doing?"
Yeah, you know what? That did cross my mind. I'm like, are you off duty?
Yeah, she doesn't really. Even though she was a policeman in the first story, ever since she's got out of that uniform, I have definitely not got police officer vibes from her at all.
And like the weirdest part of that is that there is no reason that should be, because the character was literally created by the person writing the episodes.
Exactly, I haven't got police officer vibes from her at all. She just doesn't have a character. I just don't get it, and I don't get why that she's left her family. Apparently because, she struggles to get on with them, but I didn't see anything wrong with them. Is she the problem?
I mean, it was Chibnall pressured to have a young, attractive, intelligent female companion in the cast.
I mean, we have a young, intelligent female already in the Doctor, so...
Yeah, so, like, what exactly is Yaz adding to
She's not fulfilling any function other than making the episodes a bit too overcrowded, because it's really difficult to do 3 companions in such a short time frame of only having 50 minutes of story.
But
and
on the
clearly
other hand,
Yaz is who's suffered as a result of this.
but on the other hand, it's not that bad because they almost seem to have given up on her already.
Well, we'll see next time, as apparently the next episode is meant to be for her as well.
Yeah, it's supposed to be her.
No, it wasn't the episode after. No, it's the episode after.
No, the episode after they're going to India. They're going to Punjab.
Yeah.
So it's going to be really, really weird if she doesn't have much to do in that one.
But here's the thing. This episode felt like it was like fighting to be about Yaz and just or her family dynamic or something like that. But then like the scene with Ryan and Graham comes along with like the letter from Dad, and then that like plot thread just completely steals it. Which, I mean, it's a good plot thread, but we're getting nothing for Yaz.
Well, the thing is, that plot thread barely lasted any time, and Yaz's family was on screen for lots of the time. So it just goes to show that Graham and Ryan are brilliantly written characters, and Yaz is a shittily written character. And that just grabbed our attention more, because those characters are much better.
Honestly, it's like we've got Jamie, Harry Sullivan, and Clara in a TARDIS team.
Oh, I get you. Except for, even though I think I didn't like Clara, and I thought her character development was pretty naff. At least they tried to, give her a proper character, which I don't feel they're really doing with Yaz. They try to give her some proper time to herself,
Companions is a strange one because it didn't work in the 1980s when all of the stories were 100 minutes long in general.
Yeah, the only time Companions has worked is back in the 60s, and that's when, most stories were 6 episodes long. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, like 3-man TARDIS teams. I mean, I'm not going to start counting them all lose count, because that's a good number. It works well. You can have some good dynamic between groups of 3.
Yeah.
And Yaz is dumb. So there.
Yeah, so I don't think we're really getting into anything new in terms of panel discussions. We're more or less just reiterating what we said in the previous episode, but it was important to go over it again just because, this was meant to be the episode where Yaz finally became a proper character, but she hasn't, sadly. So we're going to move on now to...
She hasn't?
I hate you. We're going to move on to side characters now in this story, which basically equates to evil businessman and Yaz's mum. So, what do you think of those two?
You've forgotten there was a third side character, Dylan. Did you not remember?
Kevin, you mean?
No, there was another one. She's in several scenes. She's very important to the plot. Do you not remember?
The spider laboratorian.
It's easy. It's easy to forget.
Yeah, her.
She was in fact in the episode.
Yeah, she just she was in the first 10 minutes, then just completely faded to the background.
And then she popped up again at some point when they're staring down the landfill.
Chibnall needed a reason to integrate.
I'm not gonna lie, I genuinely forgot she was a character.
It's because she was only there. She was only there to explain the plot because Chibnall couldn't think of a way to have the plot explained without having her there.
They needed someone who knew spiders, but John Pertwee did go to the planet of the spiders multiple times. So
the thing is that this is not Planet of the Spiders; it's the Green Death.
This is Country of the Spiders.
No, this is the Green Death.
This is Sheffield
spiders
of the
instead
spiders.
of maggots. It's literally the plot of the Green Death.
Right, we'll get onto the plot in a moment.
It actually is.
We'll get onto the plot in a moment. At the moment.
Yeah, sorry. We're gonna get into a whole can of maggots with that.
Yeah, so.
So you got scientists. You got Yaz's mum, who's there.
She wasn't bad. I thought she was alright.
She's got a couple of good lines. Yeah.
But the only problem is she doesn't really add anything to Yaz.
Yeah.
What she did was bring the main characters to the location of all the spiders. Yeah. And that's it. But then they were headed there already because Jodie did the whole Mad Men's chalkboard thing. It's right there. What's there? So
I didn't realize Jodie was Australian.
Oh, I'm sorry. Accent.
Tag on RTD a lot for some of the way he handled Doctor Who, but making Jackie Tyler an immediately likable and interesting character, and then getting her well integrated into the first story she was in, and then keeping her coming back was a thing he did very well. And then doing that again.
I'm rather hoping that this Doctor Who doesn't really focus on family much, particularly.
The integration thing, Chibnall possibly isn't as good as that, so it would be good if he didn't try. That's possibly one of the small mercies of the Moffat era, is that he did not try so hard to make the families.
Yeah, but he always had it in. Every story, you get the companions going back home, going to their families, just I just want to see some people go and travel around in time and space, and that's what I'm hoping to see for the rest of this season. It seems like that's what they're setting up to do, and I really, 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 really hope so. That would be fun just to have for once, because when was the last time we had that? Are we going back to the Sylvester McCoy era? I think we might be.
Oh boy, time for more Happiness Patrol.
But that had a series arc in it, and
yeah, but it didn't have Ace traveling back home every episode to her family.
No, because they saved that for Survival, and that was a really good choice.
Not that you saw a fan, but oh well. Yeah. No. So what did you think of? I've forgotten his name, but the evil businessman president guy who definitely is not Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
What do you think of Donald Trump?
I can't remember what his name is because I wrote just Donald Trump on my notes.
Yeah, I've just called him not Donald Trump.
The problem is that on the one hand, he is a ridiculous caricature who drags the story down by being completely unbelievable. But on the other hand, he is more toned down than the actual real-life Donald Trump.
Yeah, he's way less amusing than real-life Trump,
So that puts us in the awkward position where, on the one hand, he's not a parody, but on the other hand, he doesn't function as a character without the knowledge of the real-life person that he represents.
What were they actually trying to do with that character? Because It's like they kind of started writing a parody of Donald Trump, then just gave up halfway through and decided, fuck it, we'll leave him in.
Because if you put an actual parody of Donald Trump into the story, it would be even more stupid than it actually already was.
Donald Trump has basically put like political satirists out of business because you can't actually get funnier than what's really happening.
Because Donald Trump's not a real person. So you can't put him into a story.
And here's the weird thing, right? So they make not Donald Trump, and then they mention the real Donald Trump in the story, and then say, "No, I hate Donald Trump. He's stupid." I'm like, did they just add that in to be like, no, this is not Trump. See, he doesn't like Trump, so why would he be like him?
Yeah, that's why I'm saying they like kind of gave up on saying he's Trump halfway through and just shoved that into kind of.
But then they just made him the stereotypical like corrupt businessman, which is like.
But on the other hand, he's so obviously meant to be Trump because he's a rich hotelier with his like. You can clearly glimpse that his initials are like plastered over everything.
In his first scene, he goes, "You're fired."
Yeah, he does. He just fires someone for no reason, and then there's supposed to be a subplot that's like exploring the consequences of that, but it's just like, you're fired. Why are you still here? You're fired again.
Yeah, it's poor man's Green Death, really. In that sense, he's trying to do an ecological message, but the Green Death just did the same thing way better.
I mean, let's not beat around the bush. It was the exact same thing.
It was trying to do the exact same message as the Green Death with I know spiders are insects, but like kind of those type of small creatures become big because of ecological recklessness, and the moral of the story is don't do that.
It's ecological. It's dumping of hazardous waste into a mine.
It's into a mine as well.
Oh my! How did I not pick that up?
I didn't either. I've just realised it. Why did they set it in Lan Fairfax and just do Green Death 2 but with Donald Trump, but not quite Donald Trump? That would have been a better story.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was like
they should have added in like a sentient computer. Maybe they should call it like boss or something like that.
They shouldn't call it boss. They should call it manager.
Yes. Manager. And then they should have had like this scientist character. They did have the scientist character, but she didn't.
Should have had like a long-haired hippie who tries to foil the evil plans of the corporation and falls in love with Yaz and takes her out of the show because she's naff.
But then
Jody drives off in an unexplained Bessie, and the end credits roll.
Yes, it's perfect. We have recreated this episode as art.
Yeah, the whole spider thing was to throw us off, was to get us to start thinking about Planet of the Spiders when it was the Green Death the whole time.
It was all
the trick.
Let's just move on to the plot now, because we're basically...
Let's just review the Green Death.
Right, so this story was kind of enjoyable to start with. It had some spooky, scary spiders. And then it just stopped. And it just stopped, yeah. And
right, so
it just ended. I mean, So apparently, all of the spiders were lured into that room by a grime music. All the spiders just underneath that hotel, by the way, and they just leave it like that. Just let those spiders starve to death, right? But what about all of the other spiders over Sheffield, like the one they found in that girl's room? Are they just allowed to roam free? Am I missing something here?
So here's my issue with the spiders, right? They show like level 1 of spider growth, and they show it very directly, right? And then they show them in darkness as though they didn't just show one in light, right? So what I think they could have done is they could have had like a POV shot on the spiders, and then with each new spider have it get like higher and higher, so to show that the spiders are getting bigger as they go to the center of the source, and then show like the big queen spider on the roof or the ceiling of the ballroom. You know what I mean? I think that would have been awesome.
And also like in the construction of the episode, like up until the scene in the flat. we're trying to do a scary episode, and then they just sort of gets left behind for most of the rest of the episode, apart from like maybe the scene where they're opening up the like encased humans in the mine. Like they're just sort of okay, we've done the scary bit, and now we're just sort of that's gone.
Yeah,
Well,
and you know what really bothered me is the fact that all of a sudden, like kind of about 2/3 of the episode, all of a sudden we're now supposed to feel sorry for the spiders, and we're not supposed to shoot the spiders. It's like, I get this when it's like intelligent alien life, but this is a fucking spider.
Like,
it may be bigger, but it's not more intelligent than a regular house spider.
Oh my god!
It's literally what is wrong with shooting them when they're trying to kill you?
Hey guys, let's go back to the.
It's
taken.
Are you mad? And apparently, starving them to death in a confined room is more humane than just shooting them. This literally makes no sense.
Yeah, this is.
And again, to go back to Green Death, the Doctor doesn't have anything against killing creatures that have became giant, not because of themselves, but because of the recklessness of somebody else. He swatted that bloody giant fly. He was approving of killing the giant maggots. He
was literally driving Benton through a thing, and Benton was like throwing grenades
No, he wasn't throwing grenades. He was throwing poisoned mushrooms at them.
Still, like he's like endorsing and engaging in this like killing of this, getting rid of the pest and the threat. Or like I went to the Seeds of Doom personally when I was doing my notes. The Doctor just like, he's like, yes, call in an airstrike on this hotel right now. This infection will spread otherwise.
And also like they've taken the Doctor's like anti-gun messaging from a general dislike for murder to pathological hatred for guns.
Yeah, it's
in
like
particular for no reason.
The Doctor would always use guns when he had to, but the point was he didn't like using them, and when he could, he would use his intelligence to get out of situations like that. However, in the new series, it's almost like, I'm the man who never would, I'd never kill anybody even though I do all the time, and I'd never use a gun even though I have lots of times. And then all of a sudden, like, what? You can't shoot a fucking spider that's trying to kill you. Are you insane? It's silly.
Like, the Queen spider that Donald Trump shoots, that spider was suffocating because it had grown too big. Why would you not put it out of its misery in that moment?
I just don't get this, man. What are they trying to go for with that? Why do they think that makes sense?
Guns are bad, and you should never use them. Which just makes the anti-gun messaging seem really stupid.
Yeah, like the message of Doctor Who was never don't use violence under any circumstances. It was try to avoid it unless you can. Use it as a last resort. That's always how it's been. The Doctor was happy to use violence and use guns when he absolutely had to, or she had to. But now apparently it's just like, you just don't. You're evil if you do that. It's just really, really, really strange, and I can't find it in myself to really properly blame the Jodie era for this. This has been a thing that's kind of been building up since the Tennant era. It's just a really weird, stupid misunderstanding of what the Doctor actually thinks.
Here's another thing about the Doctor in that it just like at the end of the episode that I guess it made me mad. Nothing to do with the guns. Well, sort of to do with the guns. She lets Donald Trump just walk away scot-free when he had clearly like violated her moral principles, and I don't know. I just feel like there should have been some retaliation.
Yeah. I mean, did he get a win the election now? Did they not tell on him?
Did
he just pay them off and now everything's all right? I mean, what was going on there? There was not enough time to do this story.
Like what? If Jodie was in like The Enemy of the World and Salamander, like there was like no evidence, and she was just like, well, all right. Nothing we can do about it then.
They could literally get him prosecuted because he's got an illegal firearm. Like there's no loophole for having a self-loading handgun. Those are illegal. You will get sent down.
As much as I don't like Tennant's Doctor, I feel like even so much as like the thing Tennant did to Harriet Jones with the "Doesn't she look tired?" Even that, just like getting back.
The problem is they still haven't got it yet. I don't know how many series of New Who having single episodes that don't have enough time to fully tell a story is going to take before they realise you can't tell a Doctor Who story, at least the majority of Doctor Who stories, in 45 or 50 minutes. It's just not doable. You have to leave out important plot points that just make it feel half-baked and unfinished. And this is yet another example of this. And Jesus Christ, I'm getting really frustrated about this now, as I thought Chibnall was, maybe he'd finally sort this out, but nope, just the same old shit. The only episode that hasn't felt like it needed longer was Rosa, and that wasn't even written fully by Chibnall.
And this is with the extended run time of 60 minutes. They're giving...
No, 50 minutes.
50.
Oh, 50?
Five more minutes than it was before.
Oh, I thought it was 60. I apologize.
The first episode was...
If it was 60, it would probably be enough for, most Doctor Who stories, if handled correctly. But 50 minutes now, that's not enough at all.
The first episode was an extended length, and that was almost, on a plot level, that was an episode which didn't need it, but they needed it because they had... as we discussed before, far too many characters to introduce and get all in a row, and then running after and introduce and run after some monsters.
Yeah.
But that was only for the first episode,
Yeah,
and that's still kind of felt like not enough there.
So because of time, we're gonna have to move on now. So any closing thoughts on the plot before we move on?
I was mostly quite bored.
You
business
cut
kind
out
of
there.
episode, wasn't it?
You cut out a bit there, Jack. Do you want to repeat that?
Sorry, I was saying I was mostly quite bored apart from the bit where they were in the flat and a couple of the other more scary scenes. But apart from that, I wasn't that invested in any of the stuff which was going on, and it was all a bit messy.
Yeah, Eric.
Trying to go for a screw big business moral again.
But it not quite making full sense and not quite coming to a satisfactory conclusion. You see, the thing is, I did enjoy a good chunk of this story. It's just the fact that it just ended without properly tying up some of the plot threads, and some of the things in it just didn't really make any sense. That was the problem with it.
It's like there were good scenes in it, but they were tied into a larger plot, which was the Green Death 2, but this time with less of everything.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an insult to the memory of Robert Sloman to compare this to the Green Death.
The special effects are better than in the Green Death.
To be fair, I did think the giant maggot special effects in the Green Death were actually better than CGI. It was good.
Well, some of the special effects in the Green Death are really good, and then there's
the blue screen.
Yeah, then there's the blue screen of the mine. I mean, look, it was 1973,
and also the fact that in some scenes they cut between genuine exterior shots and things which are chroma keyed.
Oh, and like when they have those on location shots, and then shots they forgot to film on location, so they just put like a backdrop in a set of trees. Like
it's the scene where Bessie pulls up, and then the Doctor gets, I think, Benton to come with him, and then they're in the car and they're suddenly in blue screen.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're going to move on to the production of the story now, which includes direction, music, etc. So, what do you think of that, Eric?
Well, I thought that the music that I do remember, it was quite good. Good and refreshing to not have this big bombastic thing, but specific little groups of instruments doing their own separate little thing, making the theme better. You know what I mean? That was a half-assed comment, but
yeah, but no, we were all big fans of Sega Nakanola. Yeah, he's definitely improving the incidental music of Doctor Who. Because as most of you will know on my channel, I'm not a big fan of Murray Gold's music. I find it over the top and intrusive on the atmosphere of the episode. Whereas Sega Nakanola has turned this around and doing some properly good Doctor Who music. Which
imagine if Murray Gold had scored the bit where the spider gets shot.
Imagine that scene, but with the Rose Sad music from Series 1.
Or the 10th Doctor regeneration theme.
I don't want to go. No, the spider says, I don't want to go.
Honestly, Doctor Who just needs to go back to like stock music.
Well, no, I don't think so. I think second Actor was very good, and he's a good choice for.
Yeah, no, that I kid.
It's a shame that they keep deciding that he's not good enough and then inserting pop music into the episodes.
Oh, that was only once, and we complained about that enough last week.
I mean, technically the grime was a plot point, but it did go on for quite a while.
It was the grime. That was fine. That was a plot point, you know. It's like are we going to say the invasion was bad because I had pop music in the bit when Jamie turns on his transistor radio he gets from Vaughan? Don't think so. Yeah.
I would just like to say that grime music, as I guess we're calling it, it sounded to me like Big Shack because I'm not very educated in music. But I would just like you to imagine blasting "Man's Not Hot" in place of the grime music. And just the spiders all going towards it. So there. So the shots where like they focus on the spider webs. So that would have been better if we didn't know the name of the episode. But even if we didn't know the name of the episode, that's like complete anti-subtlety. You know, it's like there's a spider in this episode. Can you see the web?
Well,
like
so you
three
think
times.
that an episode about spiders should avoid filming webs?
Well, it's just that it goes to complete focus on them. That
because the focus on the episode is spiders.
It's more
I
of a
don't
problem.
think there's anything wrong with that myself.
It's more of a problem that they blew their load as far as like showing the CGI spiders like within the first half of the episode.
That is true.
Like,
I can agree with that. But what I will say is the direction is beautiful. There's nobody's talked about that yet. But the direction of this episode is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's really well done.
It's been really good all series.
One shot I specifically liked was when when you first see not Donald Trump and kind of the camera kind of crawls up to him from a worm's eye view as if it's like, you're the spider, you know. That was really good foreshadowing because that was before we saw any spiders. I'm pretty sure.
And I mean the spider CGI actually looked pretty good, like especially by Doctor Who standards, they looked very good.
No, it was probably good CGI.
Yeah.
You know?
But they're always going to look a bit fake on the BBC budget, so maybe don't.
Yeah, maybe they should have dusted off the planet of the spiders.
Or even just show the CGI in a way which does not make it full and obvious. Show it from like maybe some spider perspective with some spider limbs going forwards from the camera.
Yeah, or maybe just don't show them too much, at least not until later on in the story.
Or like do what they did in The Mind Robber with Medusa snakes and just like have a separate stop motion shot of the spider, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, not gonna lie, the Medusa in The Mind of Evil is fucking scary. I don't know about you, but I was creeped out by that when I was little, so... I
mean the one in The Mind Robber.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, The Mind Robber.
You said The Mind of Evil first.
Oh, well, yeah, sorry. Audience, I've had a drink before I came on here, okay? So that's why I am saying the wrong things.
There are so many Doctor Who stories whose names are basically the same that it's sometimes difficult to keep track.
Ignore me, because when I was little, I found the rats from Talons of Weng Chiang scary, so... what I found scary at that age probably wasn't actually scary.
I mean, the problem with the giant rat is that the like... did something wrong to its fur, so it looked like it was like being shampooed.
Right, so anything else to say on the production before we move on to our final thoughts?
No, it's been uniformly good this series.
For sure.
I mean, apart from like occasionally you'll have some of the edits are like, well, that was fast. There's like there was probably a bit of might have been a deleted scene like between these two transitions because we got from this place to this place quite quickly.
I've never noticed that, but I'm not one who tends to notice those kind of things myself. So.
It could just be like a side effect of not having much time. Like you just have to.
Yeah.
We got to slap these two bits together and it'll basically scan.
I quite like that shot of the bodyguard being dragged under the bath drain or through the bath drain.
That was terrifying. That bit. That was the
Yeah,
best
that
bit.
was-
That was the best bit of
yeah.
the story. That was horrible.
It's a
Honestly,
shame
that's
that he got no lines.
that's the hide
all.
behind the couch Hall of Fame right there.
I mean, I think a lot of people who are actually scared of spiders found a lot of this episode quite frightening, but because I'm not scared of spiders, I'm like, yeah, that's sure is a big spider.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be scared if I saw it in real life, but seeing it on the
Yeah.
TV doesn't necessarily inspire that much fear. But anyway, yeah, so let's move on to our final thoughts. So, Jack, would you like to start by giving your final thoughts and a score out of 10?
There were good things in it, and it's not badly made, but it was quite boring for the most part. I'm going to give it a 4. I mean,
harsh words, but you know, fair enough.
I mean, I didn't enjoy it, so I can't give it higher. I can't give it higher than a 5. And there was enough wrong with it to take it down to a 4.
That's understandable. Eric.
Right, so I came away with a generally positive impression. I thought it had some good scary moments. There was the bits with Ryan and Graham; those were great moments for their characters. I quite like the scene where he's in his flat and he's talking to his wife, even though his wife's not really there. Spoiler alert: she died. If you didn't know, but they were just a load of bits that are just like, why are you doing this? What motivated this decision in, like, you know, not Donald Trump, the refusing to kill the spiders, and the kind of Matt Smithy bits in Jodie. Those still bug me a bit. So, generally speaking, I'm going to say about 6 obvious spiderweb shots out of 10.
All right, so I largely agree with Eric. There was a lot to enjoy about this story that are just kind of generally enjoyable, at least so far in the Jodie era, where really strong performance and writing for the Doctor, amazingly strong writing and performance for at least 2 of the companions. The story's generally enjoyable and does what it sets out to do rather well, at least in some regards, because there was a lot of this story where I was quite entertained by the whole spider thing. But what really drags it down is just some of the things that don't make sense. The story ending too fast, not Donald Trump, and this weird stuff about not shooting spiders. It just wasn't satisfactorily resolved, and it just ended up looking a bit silly by the end. But I did enjoy it overall, and there was still a lot I like, and it was brilliantly produced, and it had, you know, it kept me entertained at the very least. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10, which is my lowest score for a Series 11 episode so far, which I think is justified just because it did get quite a bit wrong, I felt. And it's it's another one of those stories that could benefit with a lot of extra time.
Yeah.
And maybe with that, it could have resolved all of its plot threads a fair bit better.
Given the science lady, whatever she was called, like a personality and some sort of narrative arc rather than just being there to explain the plot.
I think maybe Chris Chibnall shouldn't be writing so many stories each series, because he's writing the vast majority of them here, and it's just like that's too much for one writer. That's too much. You need to give somebody else a chance to write it, because if you have less stories to focus on, you can really refine each story. Whereas this episode direly felt unrefined and undeveloped in some areas.
There is one other New Who series where there was one writer who wrote like that many of the episodes, and it was Series 1, actually. RTD wrote 8 out of 13 episodes, which was 5 of the stories.
True, but
again, the ones which he contributed were not necessarily the ones which we remember fondly from Series 1.
Yeah, I mean, my 2 favourite stories from Series 1 are Dalek and The Empty Child, so there you go. But whatever. Either way, I think that's a point, and I think maybe, you know, it would be better if perhaps there were more writers there so they could all focus on their individual stories and develop them properly. As I feel that's really where Arachnids in the UK failed. It was a solid idea, and the characters were all written well as usual. It didn't feel like it was an episode that was written badly. It just felt like it hadn't got the attention it needed to fully develop it properly, and ended up just feeling a bit half-baked by the end, sadly. So
I mean,
that's really, I think we've all got to say about it. So yeah.
Wow,
So
another
we've got-
thing the classic series got right. Just imagine if John Nathan Turner wrote all of season 19, for example. God.
All right, so before we start giving the viewers nightmares of what entirely John Nathan Turner penned season 19 would be like, let's sign off. So thank you for coming on, Eric and Jack.
Thank you for having me. Hopefully I didn't ruin your show.
Oh, no, I had a good time. And check out Eric's channel in the description if you want to. And I shall see you all back next week for, I've forgotten the name of the next episode, but it will be episode 5.
It's called the Saranga Conundrum, and it is the last Chibnall episode before the finale.
That's the one. So looking forward to that. Be nice to have a space one again. So see you all later. Goodbye.
Serialized Doctor Who 2019.
Goodbye.
Bye.